Srisakha Maharaj. He was trained in Sanskrit from BBT school in Vrindavan in 2013. His Grace Srinivas Acharya Das quit his job and dedicated 6 months to learn Sanskrit in depth. He also assisted his spiritual master in developing the study guidelines for the online Bhakti Vaibhav programs. Once again, we all welcome His Grace Srinivas Acharya Das Prabhu to Parsarthi Foundation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My obeisances to all the Vaishnavas present, and thank you very much, Hari Leela Prabhu and other devotees with Parsarthi Foundation for giving me this opportunity to be in your Sangha today. So I'll sing Jai Radha Madhava. If any of you could repeat, that would be nice. Very short, and then we'll recite a verse from Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 15. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari,
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari,
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari,
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari,
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana,
Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana,
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana,
Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana,
Natira Vanachari,
Yamunatira Vanachari,
Yamunatira Vanachari,
Yamunatira Vanachari,
Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe,
Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe,
Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai,
Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai,
Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ashtasaki Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram chaiva narottamam
Naram chaiva narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudirayet.
Tato Jayam Udirayet.
So today's topic is separation of Arjuna from Krishna. So this is from chapter number 15 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Pandavas retired timely. That's the title of the chapter. So we will recite one verse that describes how Arjuna is feeling. So this is verse number 6. So please repeat this verse after me. Yasya kshana viyogena
Yasya kshana viyogena
loko hyapriya darshanaha
Loko hi apriya darshanaha
uktena rahito hyesha
Yuktena rahito hi esha
mritaka prochyate yatha.
Mritaka prochyate yatha.
Could some of the devotees chant, please?
Guys,
Yes.
Yes.
may I?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, Nilam Mataji, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yasya Krishna viyogena lokahya priyadarshanaha uktena rahito hyesha mritka prochyate yatha.
Okay.
Thank
Can
you.
someone else chant?
Yasya shana viyogena loke
Yasya kshana viyogena
loko hi apriya darshana
loko hyapriya darshanaha
uktena rahito hya esha
uktena rahito hyesha
mritaka prochyate yata.
mritaka prochyate yatha. Anyone else would like to chant?
यस्य क्षणवियोगेन
Yasya kshana viyogena
लोको ह्यप्रियदर्शनः
loko hyapriya darshanaha
उक्थेन रहितो येष
uktena rahito hyesha
मृतकः प्रोच्यते यथा.
mritaka prochyate yatha. Thank you. We'll read word for word. Yasya,
Yasya,
whose,
whose,
kshana,
kshana,
a moment,
a moment,
viyogena,
viyogena,
by separation,
by separation,
lokaha,
lokaha,
all the universes,
all the universes,
he,
he,
certainly,
certainly,
apriya darshanaha,
apriya darshanaha,
everything appears unfavorable.
everything appears unfavorable.
Uktena,
Uktena,
by life,
by life,
rahitaha,
rahitaha,
being devoid of,
being devoid of,
he,
he,
certainly,
certainly,
eshaha,
eshaha,
all these bodies,
all these bodies,
mritakaha,
mrutakaha,
dead bodies,
dead bodies,
prochyate,
prochyate,
are designated,
are designated,
yatha,
yatha,
as it were.
as it were.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I have just lost him whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life. Purport. Factually, for a living being, there is no one dearer than the Lord. The Lord expands himself by innumerable parts and parcels as Swamsha and Vibhinnansha. Paramatma is the Swamsha part of the Lord, whereas the Vibhinnamsha parts are the living beings. As the living being is the important factor in the material body, for without the living being, the material body has no value. Similarly, without Paramatma, the living being has no status quo. Similarly, Brahman or Paramatma has no locus standi without the Supreme Lord Krishna. This is thoroughly explained in the Bhagavad Gita. They are all interlinked with one another, are interdependent factors. Thus, in the ultimate issue, the Lord is the summum bonum and therefore the vital principle of everything. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamadhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanyam Ishwaram Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So once again, I thank all the devotees present here, particularly Harilila Prabhu, Mataji, and all the senior Vaishnavas. I seek your blessings so that I may speak something that is in line with the parampara and relishing to all of you. So as I said, this is a verse spoken by Arjuna. Now interestingly, in this chapter, Arjuna is also addressed by the word Krishna. Krishna is also one of the names for Arjuna, and Krishna with long A is a name for Draupadi. In the very first verse, Evam Krishna Saka Krishno Bhratra Rajna Vikalpitaha Nana Shankaspadam Rupam Krishna Vishlesha Karshitaha. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. 3 times it comes up when it's explaining that how Arjuna is in separation of Krishna. Krishna Vishlesha Karshitaha. Arjuna has really become weak and very much aggrieved in feelings of separation from Krishna. And who is Arjuna? Arjuna is Krishna Sakha. That's one of the names of Arjuna. He's a friend of Krishna. So Arjuna, this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's the 15th chapter. This happens much later after the events of Battle of Kurukshetra. We see in the Bhagavatam first 6 chapters, there's Sutta describing to sages. And then next, Narada is Narada to Vyasa. And then there is some immediate events after the battlefield of Kurukshetra. We see Queen Kunti's prayers and Bhishma Dev's prayers. All those things happen. And then Maharaja Parikshit appears, and you'll see Krishna's going back to Dwaraka. And then there is a big pause for the events in the Bhagavatam. After that, at a much later time, by this time, Parikshit Maharaj has grown up. And one time, Arjuna goes to visit Krishna in Dwaraka to see what Krishna is doing and what are his plans, what are his further plans, what are the next steps that Krishna is going to take. And Arjuna goes, and it takes a long time for him to come back. About 7 months he's away from Hastinapura. And Maharaja Yudhishthira is worried. Where is my brother Arjuna? Where has he gone? He went to Dwaraka to see Krishna, but why hasn't he come back yet? So he's discussing with his brother, among his younger brother, the oldest younger brother, Bhima, discussing what must have happened to Arjuna. And of course, at that time, Yudhishthira Maharaj is also seeing things are deteriorating. It happened that the universal progression has coming backwards. Things are going backwards. He's experiencing some bad omens. His left eye, left arm, his thigh, they were quivering. It's an indication when the right side quivers for a man, it's something good is going to happen. But when the left side, there is some quivering, that means something bad is going to happen. And Yudhishthira saw many, many bad things, including the final thing that he saw, which is very horrible, is when he went to temple for darshan, the deities were crying. So that was the situation. So what has happened that has made the situation so bad? So he suspected, as the time come for Krishna, Narada Muni mentioned previously to Yudhishthira, when Dhritarashtra has left home, that Krishna will wind up his pastimes, and after that you should also be prepared to leave this world. So Yudhishthira is thinking, has that time come? Has Krishna left? Is that why we are seeing all these things? So he's worried, and by that time Arjuna walks in and he pays obeisances to his brother, and he's so weak and he's crying, tears are coming out from his eyes. And Yudhishthira asks, Arjuna, what happened? And Arjuna doesn't speak, he doesn't talk, he just keeps quiet. Then if somebody doesn't talk and keeps quiet, what do? We start making some guesses. Arjuna, what happened? Is everybody okay? And Yudhishthira takes everybody by name, right from Ugrasena, Shurasena, all the way down to Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and all these people. Yes, is everybody all right? Is everybody all right? And he keeps on asking, did you do anything that is not good? Have you done something that you should not have done? And he mentions various different things. One of the things is, have you taken prasadam without feeding old and the children, without feeding old people and children? I mean, the fact that it's on the list of things that Yudhishthira thinks for which Arjuna is so depressed means it's an important etiquette. Have you not protected somebody who has taken your shelter? Why are you so depressed? So he keeps on asking these questions. And finally, after Yudhishthira puts all these questions, then Arjuna gains some strength and he starts answering Yudhishthira. And this is his response. Yasya kshana viyogena loko hya priya darshanaha uktena rahito hyesha mritaka prochyate yatha. I have lost somebody. Who did you lose? I have lost that person whose viyoga. Now we have the word yoga. Yoga means one of the meanings of yoga is to link up, to be connected. And viyoga means separation. Yoga means coming together, and viyoga means separation. Yasya kshana viyogena. Moments of separation from somebody. That person from whom a moment separation makes lokaha apriya darshana. It makes the entire world not worthy of seeing. Now we sometimes say, if somebody visited house, children stay away from the house, or when they grow up, they go to different places. A daughter may leave the house, or the kids may go to school to study somewhere, and they come home. So when they come home, when they stay at home, it feels so good. They're talking and they're making jokes, and the siblings are fighting with each other, and the vacation time is over and everybody leaves. Then just the mother and father are sitting, and the mother is crying. The father says, "Why are you crying?" "Bachon ka bina ghar to suna hai." The whole house is empty. You may have so much furniture in the house, so many things in the house. But what do? You're thinking, they were playing with these things. They were sitting here and talking. It all seems empty. Everything feels empty. Now that's just one house feels empty for a mother, for a father. But Arjuna is saying the entire creation, the entire world feels empty, difficult to see. And how does it feel like? Uktena rahitaha. Uktena rahitaha mritakaha. Mritakaha means dead. Dead body. A dead body without life. That's how it will feel like. Now, is that how everybody feels? Or is it just Arjuna who is feeling like this? We may be separated from Krishna throughout the whole day. We have to struggle ourselves to think of Krishna. Even what to speak of whole day, even while chanting Krishna's holy name, it's very difficult for us to keep Krishna in our heart. So, but here Arjuna is saying, even for a moment, the idea of something that exists without Krishna is almost like a lifeless thing. Nothing has life. Now, is Arjuna exaggerating? No. Actually, Arjuna is speaking the truth. That can be experienced only when we are fully purified. In fact, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 7, knowledge of the absolute. That's where the Bhakti Yoga begins in the Bhagavad Gita. It is called knowledge of the absolute because that's when Krishna starts giving knowledge about him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Previously, he spoken a little bit, he has spoken. But in the 4th chapter, he says a little bit. But here now he explains that how everything is coming from him. In here it talks about Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha. The living entities are part and parcel of the Lord. They are the energy of Krishna. Both the material creation as well as the living entities, they are energies of the Lord. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kham mano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yame bhinna prakritirashtada. Apareyamitastvanyam prakritim me vidhi param. Jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. We have these living entities who are also energy of the Lord. But this prakriti is para prakriti. Living entities are para prakriti. And this bhumirapo analo, this is apara prakriti. Both are energies of the Lord. And nothing functions without Krishna. Gamavishacha bhutani dharayamyahamojasi. I enter into these planetary systems, and that's how I sustain them. The universes are floating, the planets are floating because Krishna is present in them. And what about the living entities? Here Krishna is saying that without Paramatma, living being cannot exist. In the same 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Jivanam Sarva Bhuteshu, and the life amongst all the living entities. So Krishna is life. Without Krishna, uktena rahitaha. Without Krishna, then there's no life actually. Now this body is functioning because Krishna is present. The consciousness, Chetana, that we have is also Krishna. In the 10th chapter, Krishna says that he is the Chetana. He is the Chetas of all the living entities. So because of Krishna, then we are present. In the second canto, in the 10th chapter, Shukadeva Goswami describes the Virata form of the Lord. There it described when Krishna desired to see, then the sun manifested, then the eyes manifested, and the power of vision manifested. So I am seeing right now, you are all seeing because there is light. Without the light, eyes will not function. So, but the light is Krishna. Prabhasmi Shashi Suryayo. I am the light of the sun and the moon. And the eyes are also given by Krishna. And the power for the eyes has to have the power to see. There may be eyes, but people cannot see, and they don't function properly. So the power to see is also given by Krishna. When this proper understanding is there, then a pure devotee, Stavara Jangama Deke, Nadeke Taramurti, Sarvatra Hoye, Ishtadeva Spurti. Whatever he sees Krishna, his Ishtadev. That's what Arjuna is seeing. Yen Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam. We see Sada Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. Temanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santas Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. Pure devotees, they're always seeing Krishna in their hearts as well as in everything that they see. When Radharani sees a monsoon cloud, she sees Krishna. When she sees Tamala tree, she sees Krishna. Arjuna, now Krishna has left. Everything is feeling shunyam, empty, lifeless. Now here, Arjuna is comparing, he's saying a minute, not a minute, a kshana is actually 1.3 seconds. A kshana is 1/8 of a second. Saying 1.3 seconds, if you cannot see Krishna for 1.3 seconds, everything is lifeless. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says something similar. What does he say? Yugaitam nimeshena chakshusha pravrishaitam shunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahenam. Yugaitam nimeshena. Nimesha is smaller than a kshana. Nimesha is half of a second. And it's comparing that to yuga, yugaitam. Of course, there yugaitam is said to be 8 years or 16 years, something like that. So we can see here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood was saying, there he was saying Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam. Sarvam Jagat Shunyam. Entire world seems to be zero. Just like the mother feels the house is empty without children. So same thing Arjuna is saying, Lokaha, entire world is lifeless. So these are Arjuna's feelings. So then Arjuna, in this chapter, he goes through, he explains various different things that we can see here. So one of the things that when we are separated by somebody, what we think is about the relationship that we have with that person. Now, when we say a relationship, in that relationship, there will be activities, there will be some pastimes, there will be some leela that must have been performed. For example, His Holiness Bhakti Charuswami passed away last year. And during the memorial, all the devotees, they would recollect their interactions with Maharaj. How, how Maharaj treated them when they were together, what Maharaj spoke, what kind of guidance he has given, how he does certain things. So it's natural. So that's what here Arjuna is going through. Now, Arjuna explains so many different things that Krishna has done for the sake of the Pandavas, and how Krishna has helped them at every step. Same thing Queen Kunti does in chapter 8. She was also recollecting. Same thing gopis do in 10th canto. They also talk about how Krishna saved the residents of Vrindavan from so many calamities. So this is a natural reaction when we lose somebody, we think the good times we had with that person and how that person had helped in our journey, in our life's journey. So Arjuna is thinking one by one. He's thinking how Krishna has helped him gain the hand of Draupadi. There were many people seeking the hand of Draupadi. And besides Krishna, except for Karna and Arjuna, nobody could meet the challenge that was put forward by Drupada. But however, Draupadi, tactfully, she avoids Karna by saying she wants somebody she doesn't want anyone who is lower than a Kshatriya. Of course, she has the right to choose her husband, so she puts aside Karna. And because of Krishna's help and empowerment, Arjuna is able to gain the hand of Draupadi. And after he pierces the target and gains the hand of Draupadi, so many people challenges Arjuna for a fight, and Arjuna becomes victorious and takes away Draupadi. And not only that, Arjuna fought with so many demigods. He pleased them. He pleased demigods. One time Indra and his followers, they fight with Arjuna, and Arjuna puts up the fight. And he defeats Indra, king of heaven. And he helps Agnidev to eat all the herbs in the Kandava forest. He protects Mayadanava from being burnt in the fire. So because he takes shelter of Arjuna, he's protected. Otherwise, he would have been killed by Krishna from one side and fire god from the other side. So as a favor, Krishna engages Mayadanava in building a nice palace, assembly house for the Pandavas. And Srila Prabhupada explains that by these actions, all the kings of the world, they could realize that these Pandavas, they are not ordinary human beings. They are favored by the supernatural powers. Otherwise, how could they have this wonderful assembly house? So they could understand that, and they would accept to become subservient. They accept when they were challenged before the Rajasuya Yajna, the emperor, whoever is performing that Rajasuya Yajna, must win over everybody, must get the consent of all the people. So he was not challenged because of Krishna is there with them. And when Jarasandha was killed, we know how Jarasandha attacked Krishna many times, I believe 17 times, and Krishna just ignores him. And finally he runs away. That's why it's called Ranchor, one of the names of Krishna. But Krishna had other business. He killed enough people. The function of Jarasandha, Krishna came to kill the miscreants. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushputam. So Krishna engaged Jarasandha in gathering all the Dushkrutis together. 17 times he defeats him and he runs away. So 17 times Krishna kills all the soldiers. But the 18th time Krishna doesn't eat that enough. Now I have killed enough number of people, have gotten rid of so many people. So now it's enough. And Krishna also had to meet Rukmini Devi. So he makes different arrangements. Now he shifts his camp to Dwaraka. And also one of the reasons is Jarasandha, he has to be killed by Bhima. So Krishna, and the advice of Uddhava, he makes this plan how to kill Jarasandha. And then Krishna personally goes with Bhima and Arjuna to the palace of Jarasandha. And they actually go as Brahmanas to make charity. And when Jarasandha, he had this good quality, but that he would not deny charity to Brahmanas. So they go and Jarasandha asks, what do you want? And they say, we want a fight with you. And Jarasandha, then they reveal their identities. Jarasandha accepts. But Jarasandha says, Krishna, you ran away from the battle. I'm not going to fight with you. And Arjuna is younger to me, is not an equal. So I'll fight with Bhima. So they have a big fight for a couple of weeks. And Bhima wins with the help of Krishna. Krishna shows Bhima specifically how to kill Jarasandha. These are not simple things. These are not ordinary things. Jarasandha was so powerful that he arrested so many kings. And he was actually about to sacrifice all those kings, kill them in sacrifice. But because of Krishna, all those kings will be released and they were able to perform the Rajasya Yajna. Because, as I said, there should be consent from everybody. Jarasandha would not obey. So they have to kill Jarasandha. And so many things like this, particularly helping Draupadi, how Krishna helped Draupadi. When she had 5 very, very powerful husbands. These are not ordinary people. Bhima is so powerful, strength of 1,000 elephants. Arjuna, Yudhishthira, such a truthful man. But none of them could protect Draupadi. Only Krishna had to save Draupadi. In this way, Arjuna recollects so many different things. And finally, all these things he's saying, that Krishna who helped us in so many ways, he has left us. He has left us. Now, the thing that has bothered Arjuna is, now Arjuna had a duty. When Krishna left, all the queens, they were under the care of Arjuna. So Arjuna was bringing all the queens to Hastinapura. He was bringing them. And what happened at that time, some cowherd men, village cowherd men, with their village style bows and arrows, not so sophisticated, they came and they attacked Arjuna. And what did they do? They attacked Arjuna and they kidnapped all the queens that Arjuna was bringing to Dwaraka. Now this is so surprising. And for someone like Arjuna, that is such an embarrassment. For a Kshatriya to be defeated, not by somebody who is very powerful, not somebody who is equal or more powerful, but some insignificant cowherd man. That is such a shocking thing. And Arjuna is saying, I have very same Gandiva bow, same arrows, same chariot, driven by the same horses, and I am the same Arjuna. What happened? I defeated Indra. And Arjuna also, in the previous verses, he mentions how he fought with Lord Shiva. And he was so chivalrous that Lord Shiva was pleased with Arjuna's fighting. And Lord Shiva also gives him weapons. So it's Arjuna who pleased Lord Shiva, who defeated Indra, who protected the demigods from Nivata Kavachas. That same Arjuna who fought valiantly in the battle of Kurukshetra. Now I was defeated by these people. It says, now Krishna has left. It seems everything has become null and void. This is strange. Of course, Krishna says, Paurusham Rushu. I am the ability in men. Now Arjuna is seeing that here my power did not work. But the Acharyas explain why Arjuna's power did not work. The reason was the people the cowherd men who came and who attacked who attacked Arjuna. It was actually Krishna who did this. Krishna is the one who took all his queens away. Why would Krishna do that? Because Krishna is wrapping up his pastimes, he has to take them back. Now there are different reasons why it has been done. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport by quoting Vishnu Chakravarti Thakura, who has given information from Vishnu Purana and Brahma Purana. So the queens of Krishna, they were demigoddesses. They were in the heavenly planets, and they pleased Ashtavakra Muni. And the Muni blessed them that you will get Krishna as your husband. But when the Muni was later walking, his name is Ashtavakra Muni because his body is bent in 8 different places, Ashtavakra. So when they saw him walking like that with body bent in several places, they laughed at him. And the Muni became angry and he cursed them. That you will be kidnapped by rogues. And they were so scared, so they begged for forgiveness. And then what happened? The Muni said, okay, no problem. You'll be united with your husband again. So in this way, it was because of this curse, this pastime was enacted, that they were kidnapped by somebody who looked like rogues, but actually that was Krishna himself. And now Prabhupada also mentions here that some of the gopis wanted to become wives of Lord Krishna. So now, as a cowherd boy, he came and he has taken them back to Gokula, back to that Leela in the Vrindavan. Now there's another thing also that is explained by Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakura, that when the queens of Dwaraka, particularly the 16,100 queens, headed by Rohini. Rohini is also one of the names. Rohini is a name of one of the wives of Krishna. Balarama's mother's name is also Rohini, but that name is also there for one of the queens of Krishna, and she is the chief amongst the 16,100 princesses who Krishna brings from, what is the name of this demon who was killed by Krishna and Satyabhama? Yes, Narakasura. And there's another name also, Naraka demon. So, Rohini, when she's Bhaumasura, yes, Bhaumasura, yes. So Rohini, when she was talking to Draupadi, she explains about the glories of the Lord, and she says, we just aspire to take the dust of Krishna, and who is walking in Vrindavan, 10th canto, I believe, chapter number 83, is mentioned there, that they were aspiring for the dust of the feet of the Lord, just like the aborigine tribal ladies in Vrindavan. They also seek the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord. That's what we aspire for. So they were thinking of the greatness of the residents of Vrindavan and greatness of the Leelas of Krishna in Sri Vrindavan Dham. So therefore, Krishna wanted to show them this Vrindavan Leela. So therefore, when Arjuna was bringing them, Krishna kidnapped them so that he could show those pastimes. So in this way, Arjuna reveals what has happened. And he explains that how all the Yadus, they just killed each other. How Krishna has indirectly, Krishna engaged the bigger Yadu in killing the smaller Yadu. The Supreme Lord he protects everybody, but in the end, he's the reason for destruction also. He winds up everything. So in this way, he explains, but as he is recollecting all these pastimes, then now in the material world, separation is a source of pain. When the same separation is applied to a spiritual personality, to a spiritual master, or to the Supreme Lord himself, it actually becomes the source of enlightenment and bliss. There is bliss in this separation. This is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he desires this separation. The Shed Goswamis, He Radhe Brajadevi Ke Chalalite, He Nanda Sunakuta. They are looking for Krishna. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? They never said, I found Krishna. That pleasure, there is so much pleasure in the separation from the Lord. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practices, he recommends the bhakti in the footsteps of Vrajavadus. Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadu Vargena Ya Kalpita. That is the devotional practice that was given, that was practiced by the Vrajavadus, practiced by the Gopis of Vrindavan, that separation, that higher mood is practiced by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in general, the mode of separation from the Lord is not a source of suffering, but actually it gives bliss to the devotee. So therefore, it is also pleasurable. Union and separation, samyoga, viyoga. These things are a source of pleasure. So Arjuna, while he's thinking, he became more and more enlightened. So therefore now he remembers what Krishna has taught him, the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Desha kalartha yuktani hrit tapopashamani cha haranti smaratas govinda abhitani me. Now this haranti, these are attracting my mind. What? Those instructions, which are desha kalartha yuktani. Wonderful instructions that are applicable at all times, at all places. Bhagavad Gita. Because it is directly spoken by the Lord. Sakshat Bhagavatoditam. It is spoken directly by Krishna. Hrit tapopashamani. And those words relieve the heart. The words that are spoken by the Lord, it will relieve the heat. It will relieve the suffering felt in the heart. And this is how when gopis would feel separation, they'll think of Krishna's pastimes. Uddhava, when he went, he simply described the pastimes of the Lord. Then they felt happy. So Arjuna also, he recollected the instructions of the Lord. Now these verses it may seem in here, verse number 29 and 28, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all contamination. And Arjuna's constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna rapidly increased his devotion. And as a result, all the trash in his thoughts subsided. Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities and because of his absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not the case, and again, he became Lord of his senses. So from this, it seems like, why would Arjuna forget the instructions? After hearing Bhagavad Gita, he should have already become liberated. Right? Nashta moha smritir labdha karishve vachanantava. Krishna, my illusion has gone. I regained my consciousness. I'll do whatever you say. And Arjuna was ready to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. So it appeared that he already surrendered and Krishna has taken all his sins, all his contamination is gone. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. So Arjuna surrendered. Krishna must have taken away all his kalmasha of all his papams. Then what is this material contamination? What is the trash in his heart? But actually there is no trash. It appeared that Arjuna forgot, but actually he did not. So now what is it? Arjuna was feeling the separation. His expression was because of feeling separation from the Lord. And that is not something, that doesn't mean that Arjuna fell down. So there is one, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains, one Sanskrit, interesting Sanskrit paradigm here. Gitam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattat Sangrama Murdhani Kala Karma Tamoruddham Punaradhyagamat Prabhu. So Arjuna, is the Lord of his senses. He revived everything again. So what he said is Kala Krama Tamoruddham. What it means is by time, by the influence of time, the ignorance has covered Tamoruddham, Tamaha Ruddham, Tamoruddham. Now, this word Tamaha Ruddham, by Sanskrit grammar, it becomes Tamoruddham. Okay, Tamoruddham. But you can also take the same word and you can make it as Tamaha plus Aruddham. Okay, it can also become Tamaha plus Aruddham. Now, you may have known in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, chapter 2, verse number, is it 13? Dehinosmin yatha dehe. So here, of course, you have this little tick mark. It's not necessarily to keep that. It is there to indicate something here. And I'll explain that. So dehinosmin. But here, actually, the word is dehinaha. If you see word for word, dehinaha and asmin. Okay, so one word is dehinaha, another word is asmin. So it becomes dehinosmin. Okay. So now you have this word tamaha plus ruddham became tamoruddham. But even if it was tamaha plus aruddham, it would have still become tamoruddham, except this tick mark here. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains that actually this one is tamaha plus aruddham. That means kala krama tamaha aruddham. Even though time has passed, even though Krishna has spoken this Bhagavad Gita on the battle of Kurukshetra, and several years has passed, Arjuna was not covered by forgetfulness, by ignorance. He still remembered those things. Prabhupada explains indirectly, but factually this was not the case, and again he became the Lord of his senses. Prabhupada says it appeared Arjuna had forgotten. So that appeared, you can see from how you can split this word in a different way. Tamo aruddham, then it becomes he was not covered. Otherwise, how could explain Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains Arjuna is Nara, Krishna is Narayana, eternally liberated companion of the Lord, Arjuna. How can Arjuna be covered by any sort of ignorance? So therefore, he was not covered by ignorance. he was feeling separation of the Lord, and then when he got when he recollected the instructions of the Lord, then he felt Lord's presence. When he felt Lord's presence, then he, came back and he interacted properly with everything around him. So this was Arjuna's situation. The flames of separation, they were extinguished by repeatedly thinking of the instructions that Krishna has spoken in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So in this way, he comes back to his proper state. So I will stop here and leave a few minutes if anyone has any comments or questions.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the merciful, very wonderful class, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. If anybody has questions, sorry, give me 1 second. I'd like to, please ask Prabhu any questions.
Would it be okay if I read it today and the next Thursday I'll have the questions and then they may be answered? Is it possible?
Prabhu, I'll let you answer that question, please.
Hare Krishna. That in the next Thursday, the speaker may not be same, but you can put your question in the chat box next Thursday, and we'll get the answer for you from the Prabhu. Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay. If
Okay.
that be the case, I may not have a question. Who knows? His blessing will answer all the questions.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any devotee have any questions or comment or your reflections from what you have heard? Please raise your hand and Chirayu Prabhu will call you. Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji, we can take the screen off now.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So, any devotee, please, if you have any questions or comments, any reflections from what you have heard, please raise your hand.
So, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I don't have any question, but just a little anumodan. Thank you so much for the wonderful, blissful class. Greatly appreciate for your guiding us and everything. One small question I had is, Prabhu, how you said that Arjun was not separated, but like away from Yudhishthir and Bhim and all for like 7 months, 8 months or something. So, question is, like when they were separate, like did they had communicate? They did not have any communications, or because 7 months is like a big time. So what happened on both ends of the world. So if you can guide on that, Prabhu, please.
I was thinking about the same thing, but no internet, no cell phones. But in those days, communication was possible by sending messengers. I mean, we see that Rukmini sent a message to Krishna, and it may have taken a few days to get there. Of course, Krishna overnight went to see Rukmini Devi very fast. But it is possible to send messengers and get messages. But it seems in this particular case, they just didn't bother to do so, because Arjuna and Krishna are friends. He just went to see him. But he was probably just thinking, Arjuna must be enjoying and just staying there. And then finally, it took so long. And when he was feeling bad omens, that's when he started getting worried, right? He was like, okay, what's going on? So that would be my understanding, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Now I will like to please have Prashant Prabhu. Please unmute and ask the question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, and thank you so much for explaining the point why Arjuna was losing against the hunters and all. Especially, I was always bewildered. Why was it that, although he was having this Gandiva with himself and he was being victorious all the time, is that because Krishna empowered that Gandiva that he was able to fight? But when you explained it, saying that Krishna himself was there in the form of all those, what do you call the
cowherd men?
Yeah, cowherd men and all. And then the connection that you have told, like why the queens of Krishna were being even touched by these people and all, back to the curse that they were getting from Astavakra Muni, and Krishna himself was there all the time. And then the connection that you told about the demi-goddesses and the gopis who were desiring Krishna to be their husband. Oh, that was really wonderful, Prabhu. This explanation, I never heard about it. Thank you so much. I don't have a question, but I just want to.
Thank you. Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you, Prabhu. We request if anybody else has any questions or in Anumodan for Prabhu, please kindly raise your hands. I guess, Prabhu, I think.
Yes, Prabhu. So we will probably end the session here. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Thank you very much for very enlivening class for us today. And we hope that again in future, we will call you for your class sometime in future. So please let us, with this, we will end the class here. Let us say to Hare Krishna to Prabhuji by raising our hand. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare.
His grace Srivasacarya Prabhu ki jai,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai,
Bhagavatam ki jai. Mancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.